All right. It's been a minute, friends, since we've done a live postcast. I was kind of down and out for the count last week. Even I was watching the Jazz games just kind of half asleep, just trying to get through the holiday week. I was a little sick last week, but that's all right. We're back for Salt City Hoops live postcast, and we're still not winning. What happened? I thought that the lack of my internet presence was the reason we're losing these Jazz basketball games, but no, it's still just the Jazz are losing close ones. This time we lose at home to the Chicago Bulls. 114-107. Competitive game throughout, though. Once again, the Jazz are not getting blown out by anybody. These are very close, good games. And it wasn't until the fourth quarter that Chicago really stretched their lead a little bit late, and the Jazz made a late run and couldn't really close the deal. So we'll do a short little postcast, just kind of get back into the swing of things, just to talk about the game a little bit. So if you're here joining us on YouTube or in the Twitter Spaces, we always love having you. And let's get to talking about the game a little bit. Lauri Markkanen had 25 first half points. He was really on fire from deep. He had 4 or 5 threes in the first half. And the team was just really setting up great open looks, good drive and kick game from Colin Sexton, who was again playing for no Mike Conley today. And Jordan Clarkson finished with 9 assists today. So there was a lot of good passing action that was really setting up some great shots from three. Jazz ended up shooting 53% of their shots from three today. So that's just a massive number, even in today's NBA, to shoot over half your shots from three. And a lot of that's a very successful first half from Utah. And Utah was up 7 after the first half. DeMar DeRozan was quiet in the first half, as he kind of usually is. If you're familiar with his game, is just trying to feel out the team defensively, offensively. Who is guarding him man to man? Are they switching or what? Getting other guys involved. Zach LaVine is usually a first half guy. Nikola Vucevic, get him involved early. Sometimes he doesn't play late, depending on how the defense is. Anyways, the second half was all DeMar DeRozan, and DeMar DeRozan mid-range game, and a lot of it was drawing fouls, and he ends up with 22 second-half points, drawing a bunch of fouls. He drew a flagrant foul on Kelly Olynyk at one point for landing in his airspace around his feet, and Olynyk comically recreated it on the court just to emphasize that DeRozan jumps 4 or 5 feet forward sometimes on some of these jumpers. And look, that's just how a lot of shooters shoot these days, right? That's how their body shoots the basketball. And a lot of great defenders of these jump shots, you notice that they are able to contest by moving their body out to the side and having their arms up, still contesting the shot. And Olynyk just walked right into him, right? And it was a mid-range shot. It wasn't even like a big rising jumper. So I really thought it was a bad flagrant foul committed by Olynyk, who, as we know, has not committed a single foul in his life yet, somehow leads the NBA in fouls. The Jazz could not really buy a bucket from deep late, even though they were fairly successful early. Jordan Clarkson in particular struggled. He was just 3 of 15 from the field today. The Jazz also were a total disaster from the free throw line. And when you think, oh, they just had a bad day, they were 6 of 15 today from the free throw line, including an uncharacteristic 1 and 2 from Lauri Markkanen, 1 and 2 from Jordan Clarkson, right? But you're going to get the 0 of 2 from Jared Vanderbilt, and an 0 of 4 from Udoka Azubuike, who made a surprise appearance today and played 9 minutes. No injury-related issues with that, so we'll talk about Azubuike's minutes in a minute. And not to be too redundant with that sentence. With that said, we can talk about some of the end of the game with offensive rebounding. Guys, the Jazz cannot. They're one of the league's worst defensive rebounding teams. They cannot prevent opponents from securing offensive rebounds. They're second to last in the NBA in offensive rebound percentage by their opponents. That is second to last to Brooklyn, who is also no great shakes as a rebounding team. And their opponents are rebounding over 30% of their misses. That is just a ghastly figure. The league average is around 25%, not 25, more like 26-ish percent. which is a nice healthy, and that extra 4 or 5%, that's an extra possession or 3 per game, right? And the Jazz give up 7 offensive rebounds in the first half. That's really bad. The third quarter, the Jazz give up 0 offensive rebounds. I thought the rebounding from the guards was great. I thought Lauri Markkanen and Kelly Olynyk had a little bit more verve rebounding the basketball. I also thought that the ball just kind of bounced right into their hands fairly well. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But then the fourth quarter comes around, and you're dealing with a lot of lineups that have Kelly Olynyk and Lauri Markkanen as your 4 and your 5, and with a backcourt of Sexton, Clarkson, and Malik Beasley, who none of those guys are great rebounders, right? We like Sexton's energy. He's not a great rebounder. We like Clarkson's length. He's not a great rebounder. We like Malik Beasley's maybe everything else. He's not a good rebounder, and he especially doesn't have the size for it. So we don't have any real good rebounders on that lineup. And without Jared Vanderbilt in there, just giving up offensive rebound after offensive rebound. So it was 6 offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter. That was just an absolute murder for the Jazz. Combined with their poor three-point shooting, they just couldn't get back into it. They just could not get back into the game because of the rebounding issues and because of the three-point shooting late. And they set themselves up with poor free throw shooting early. So it's kind of a struggle of a game for Utah for a couple different perspectives here, and they still only lost by 7. So, running through the team as far as who played well, who didn't, and who might have been the cause of a loss or anything. I don't think any individual player was a cause of anything. I think everyone was largely a pretty solid player, and had their relative successes, and everyone kind of contributed a mistake or 5. The turnovers weren't too bad. 14 turnovers for Utah, and to the tune of just a 55 or a 14.4% turnover rate, which is just 55th percent. That's average. That's fine. But they couldn't force any turnovers either. Chicago just committed 7 turnovers on the night, which is just a very, very, very low figure. They aren't a super low turnover team in general, I don't believe. If I look at cleaning the glass here, their turnover rate is probably around league average, since I can't immediately find them. Yeah, they're around 12th, it looks like. So, they're not a super, super low turnover team, right? They got players who kind of throw the ball around the gym. DeMar DeRozan's a fairly low turnover player, but Zach LaVine, they put the ball in the hands of Ayo Dosunmu a lot, who's a second-year player. He will commit some turnovers from time to time. Andre Drummond is a notoriously high, their backup center. Raise your hand if you remember that Andre Drummond was on the team this year for Chicago. He commits some turnovers. Alex Caruso can commit some turnovers. They just didn't do it. They only committed 7 on the day. And when you're losing the possession battle that badly, right, if you're giving up 13 offensive rebounds to Chicago, and you're giving the ball to them 14 times off turnovers, and you yourself, you're only getting 9 offensive rebounds, and you're only stealing the ball 7 times, or forcing 7 turnovers, I should say. There's no amount of shooting luck that is going to overcome that unless you are really hot from 3. The Jazz were totally respectable at the end of the day, 39% from 3, right? I talk about how bad the shooting was late, but that was set up by great 3-point shooting in the first half, right? And sure, you're hoping that Jordan Clarkson is better than 1 of 8 from 3, but Lauri Markkanen is 7-11 and Kelly Olynyk's 5 of 10. So those completely all balance out, right? You can't expect everyone to just be awesome all the time. Nickeil Alexander-Walker 0 of 2, Talen Horton-Tucker 1 of 4. That all adds up to 19 of 49, 39% from 3. Jared Vanderbilt hit 1 of 1 today. That's not going to happen very often. So it really comes down, these games are coming down to possession battles for Utah. They can't defensively rebound the basketball. Kelly Olynyk is terrible at this. He is, and there's a reason Jared Vanderbilt is out there, right? And the graphic has now changed that he is the starting center for Utah. And we all know that's not the case, right? But with just Markkanen and Olynyk out there, and you think about who our backcourt is, there's nobody rebounding the basketball. Not to say nothing of paint protection and good defense at the rim, which was just non-existent. And that's part of it too, right? So you get guys like Nikola Vucevic and Jonas Valanciunas as notorious, got this Steven Adams to a lesser extent, guys who are very good at finding good position deep in the paint and knowing that if I just throw up a shot around the rim, part of what I'm doing is setting myself up for an offensive rebound, right? It's more about just getting the ball softly on the rim and making sure that I'm in position. I have these guys all on my back. I can get 2 points out of this, even if it means I have to bat the ball 1 or 2 times, right? And we saw a little bit of that today from Vucevic. Good, solid, sturdy offensive rebounder. 3 of them today. But there were also balls and Andre Drummond had 4 offensive rebounds in 14 minutes. I believe 3 of those came in the first half. 1 of them came in the fourth quarter. When you think about who the Jazz backcourt is, this just becomes just a miserable rebounding team, right? So the backcourt, when Talen Horton-Tucker comes in the game as basically the point guard of the second unit, you kind of get a little like, all right, there's some heft there. He's a very energetic, high point rebounder. I really like his presence. But Malik Beasley coming off the bench, bad rebounder. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, bad rebounder. These guys aren't like hefty small forward types. And Simone Fontecchio didn't play today, but I'm thinking like, hey, there's a 6'8" guy that might matter. And I'm wondering, it makes me want to go back and look at the stats on rebounding when Rudy Gay was in the game for like the first 2 weeks of the season to see like if his heft kind of matters on the rebounding front, because the Jazz are just getting absolutely killed on the possession game. And all the steals that we were excited to see early in the season, those have completely gone. Right. The Jazz are not forcing very many turnovers. They are currently 21st in the league in turnover percentage forced. I don't think that's much higher than it was earlier in the season. But it's kind of a struggle as far as the overall package now. Because now the Jazz are still throwing the ball around the gym. Today was fine, but overall over the past couple weeks it's been really bad. And they're just not their defense that is allowing lots of points from deep, in the paint, in the mid-range. Whatever the opponent wants, they get. Transition defense is a total nightmare, in part because a lot of it's live ball turnovers. I think the transition defense will get a little better over time because of the types of transition plays that Utah is forced to be in, but even then it's been really bad. And now they sit 28th in defense. They still sit a remarkable 4th in offense after today, and today was a very bad offensive performance. Today was only 110.3 points per 100 points per 100 possessions, and they finished with 107 points today, so a little bit less than 100 possessions today. That's about league average, though, right? And if we're trying to win games, this has to be a team that's like, all right, we're going to be 2nd in offense, 25th in defense. Right, we're going to be 3rd in offense, 22nd in defense, and that's just not happening. Free throws were, that's a problem though. You can't coach that out. You kind of just got to hope that you're going to make 4 or 5 more of those, right? So if you finish 10 of 15 from the field, all of a sudden there's a little bit more decision making late. But hey, what are you going to do? That's what happens when Udoka Azubuike plays a surprising 9 minutes today. Obviously, Walker Kessler has been the talk of a lot of rookie discussions. Is like, hey, there's this really talented defensive center in Utah, Walker Kessler. He's playing really great off the bench, always gives you a solid 15 minutes. He projects to be a good 25-minute-a-night starting center. And Ivica Zubats type, who, by the way, had 30 and 30 the other day, or I should say 31 points, 29 rebounds the other night. Kessler projects to be a pretty good starting center, but I think this was just a night when, for 2 reasons, I think Hardy wanted to get Doak some minutes. One, Doak, with his experience and his size, he's not that much worse than Kessler. Like, he's probably good 2 tiers below Kessler, but he's also at this point kind of almost an established veteran. And I think in the doldrums of the season, right, and trying to see how guys are doing, and you're already reaching to the end of the bench, and Alexander Walker's getting minutes and whatever, it's really not that weird of a coaching decision to say, you know what, Kessler kind of struggled in his 5 minutes. I'm going to try Udoka Azubuike. And Doak was fine, right? Like, he had one awkward moment where he got the ball on the break, and he was in the paint, and he had a wide open Lauri Markkanen underneath the rim, and he just didn't know how to pass it to him, right? Where all he had to do was like a simple like handoff wraparound pass would have been a layup. Instead, he gets fouled and misses 2 free throws. He was fine defensively. He rebounded pretty well, but a lot of those rebounds just came right to him. I don't think his size really affected the game at all. He committed 1 foul. He was fine, right? He was just totally nondescript. I think Walker Kessler might have been a little better if he got all of those 14 minutes. So I think this was more about just like kind of shaking up the ethos of the team a little bit, and just keeping Doak a little bit more involved and keeping him happy. This is absolutely not a showcasing moment. There is not a single NBA executive in the world, or a low-level staffer anywhere in the entire NBA who's sitting there being like, I wonder what Udoka Azubuike is up to these days. Look at that. He got 9 minutes and had 2 points and 5 rebounds. I think we should trade for him. No, nobody is thinking that, right? So this is certainly I think this is just a look, man. Walker Kessler, I know he comes in at a regular rotation piece, at his usual juncture, plays the backup center place. He has a permanent spot in the rotation right now, but he's not such a massively critical part of the rotation that Hardy can't say, you know what, like I'm gonna give the other guy just some minutes just to keep him engaged, and to say like, I'm rewarding you for what you've been doing in practice. We've been losing a little bit. Maybe you have something that like you're more of a game energy guy. Let's just see what happens. We've seen Doak be successful in these sort of spot minutes in the past, so I wouldn't go any sort of wild conspiracy over why we saw Udoka Azubuike minutes today. I think you can just be just as disappointed as I was that he missed all 4 of his free throws. He was a presence around the rim. I think he put pressure on the rim, and that was fine. Just nothing better than what Kessler would give you, and I don't think that this change is permanent. But during the 6-game homestand, if we see Azubuike minutes over Kessler minutes every single game, this will be a longer segment of these postcasts each time. I don't think we have to waste a ton of energy about it. Like I said, Lauri Markkanen was totally on fire in the first half. He was charged with a lot of DeMar DeRozan defensive assignments in the second half, but a lot of guys were charged with defensive assignments on Lauri Markkanen in the second half, and pretty much everyone just struggled with staying out of contact with him. I thought Nickeil Alexander-Walker did okay in the first half. I was surprised to not see a lot of his defense in the second half, or even Talen Horton-Tucker. I thought it was just interesting that we kept throwing, either it was a switching strategy or just ending up having larger players guarding DeMar DeRozan, who just couldn't really stay in front of him. So he was really getting to his spots, getting his pull-up jumpers on the baseline, getting him in mid-range. There was just no slowing him down. I thought the contests were fine though, and so I call me massively disappointed with the play call late in the game to suddenly send a double team over to him. But the double team was initiated from the man who was guarding Nikola Vucevic right underneath the basket, right? And so if you have this double team that is you're basically DeMar DeRozan's in the paint. At this point, he's not underneath the rim. He's still in the mid-range area, but we're double teaming him at that point. The closest guy to him who can do the double team is going to be the guy guarding the center, guy guarding the man underneath the basket, which was Vucevic. So you end up with a wide open Vucevic underneath the rim, and I'm going to give Colin Sexton a ton of credit for the speed and the alacrity that he sprinted from the corner, the weak side corner, where he was guarding Kobe White, all the way over to prevent the pass to Nikola Vucevic. But it was such a far distance to cover that by the time DeMar DeRozan recognized where the help from the double team was coming, that's the easiest pass he has to make to the corner to Coby White, and no one's helping the helper in that situation. Lauri Markkanen is guarding Patrick Williams on the wing, and Lauri Markkanen does not get over to the corner to help Coby White's help situation, and so Coby White has this wide open three. Everyone's going to look at Colin Sexton and say like that was Sexton's fault. I thought Sexton prevented the easy wide open 2-point layup. I thought that was fine from him. I'm not sure a double team was warranted in that situation. If you're trying to come, the Jazz were down 5 or 6 points at this point with about a minute or so left. At that point, you got to just kind of hope that, look, put a good contest on DeRozan. It's just a 2-point bucket. Don't foul him. It's not going to be a back-breaking three. Just put a good contest in there. Finally put an ass on Vucevic for the first fucking time this quarter and see if you can come back down the other end. Right? And I thought deciding to double team for the first time all game DeMar DeRozan in that position really put Sexton in a bad position, and it was just a wide open three from a great shooter in Coby White. So don't totally agree with that defensive decision. But I started out talking about the players. I thought Markkanen was totally fine offensively, defensively. I don't really have a ton of issues with just who he is, right? He's going to struggle defensively in certain situations, but I'm going to take the 32 points and 9 rebounds and hope that other players, as we build around him, can pick up the defensive slack. Jared Vanderbilt's, his minutes are going to be what they are, which is 22 minutes. He's not being limited by foul trouble or anything, and frankly, in a game where the Jazz are just getting their ass kicked on the boards, especially in the fourth quarter, that lineup that closed the game where you have Sexton, Clarkson, Beasley, and Olynyk and Markkanen, that's a great offensive lineup. And that matches up really well with the Bulls, who at that point were playing 4 guards, and Vucevic. They were playing DeRozan at the 4. And they still couldn't rebound, by the way, right? Like, you still got Olynyk and Markkanen against Vucevic and DeRozan. And I know the guards are a big part of it. They have good rebounding guards. The Bulls do, and Dosunmu, and Levine's a great rebounder. And I believe Caruso was in there at the end. He had 6 rebounds. I just think that there can be some space, some more minutes for Vanderbilt some places. And if you don't believe in Walker Kessler, if you're trying to give some more minutes somewhere, I just feel like there needs to be more minutes for Jared Vanderbilt in these games. I think he's got more juice than is being provided. And if you're trying to grow this, if I'm Will Hardy and I'm saying winning is my objective both now and in the long term of this season, I'm not talking about past the season, but if you're trying to set up your team to start winning games in February and March, you have to look at Jared Vanderbilt as a necessary piece to grow with this team. He needs to improve his skills, and he's not bad enough when he is on the court to justify yanking him and limiting his minutes. I think he commits a lot of mistakes in various areas of the game, but unless he's in foul trouble, I think you got to keep running with him over some of your other options. But I understand it's probably really hard to and I think you might have to do it by limiting some of the minutes of some of the bigger guys. Clarkson's playing 37 minutes today. That's a ton of minutes for him. And I'm just not sure 22 is exactly where I'd sort out Jared Vanderbilt. Kelly Olynyk was also playing great today from a variety of perspectives. So, and he ended up with 33 minutes. So maybe that kind of evens out overall. I mentioned Sexton starting playing 36 minutes. Very confident, nice game from him. Defensively was, C-, D+. It was fine. Provided some good hustle plays. He was able to block a shot at the end of the first half in transition defense, which I know is definitely that's something that matters on this team, just getting those stops every once in a while. His distribution game I thought was on point. Clarkson's distribution game was on point with 9 assists. Totally 3 turnovers from each of them, but in 37, 36 minutes respectively. I don't really mind 3 turnovers from each of them. As I mentioned, nobody was ghastly today. No one has a plus-minus that totally sticks out as wow, that guy sucked ass today. Obviously, my favorite player, Talen Horton-Tucker, was a team low -12 today. But he was mostly fine. I think he had one questionable charge call that was called against him. And he was 1 of 5 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3. I thought his 3-point attempts, I think he's getting a little, he's just getting a little too confident on some of those. He rejected a Kessler screen today. And it made me cringe because I've mentioned, especially during his successful streak here, Taylor Horton-Tucker is very good, or he was improving in his ball handling and his dribble moves and his decision making when he was getting the ball off the catch. And so he has momentum as he's kind of moving to the basket. And if he starts his movement from a standstill, the dude has no acceleration, right? So he's starting an offensive move with the defender already kind of predicting where his movements are going to go, and that's where he gets into trouble. He has the charge drawn. He throws the ball over the gym. He doesn't get to the rim, right, which is a strength of his. And if that's going to be the situation, that can be quite a problem for him. And so he rejected a Walker Kessler screen today, and a very predictable result happened. The defender easily predicted his movement, and he had to back up and ended up taking a step back 3, I believe, on that possession. I just remember marking it down as horrible offensive possession, missed 3, and I should have been more clear who was taking it, but I believe that ended up being a step back 3 from Horton-Tucker because he initiated no space. If Walker Kessler is setting you a screen, you need to actually use that and get your momentum going from there. We had some Alexander Walker minutes again today. Struggled shooting. Both of his threes missed. They were wide open. He's got this catapulting 3. His energy was good, though. His defense on DeRozan was fine. He committed 2 fouls. I thought both of them were questionable, but when you're playing DeMar DeRozan, that might happen. Malik Beasley was exactly who he wanted to be off the bench, shooting 11 threes. He only made 3 of them, but that's fine. Like, I want Malik Beasley to be shooting 10 threes off the bench, right? That really opens up the rest of the offense. It really stress tested a relatively poor Chicago defense, and he had 4 assists and 2 steals. I don't really give a shit that he was only 4-13 from the field, 3 of 11 from 3. That's who he is, and I'm glad he had that. I hope everyone was catching Malik Beasley's and company's Insta stories from over the weekend. He his wife threw him I believe they're married. Montana Yao threw him a birthday party, and all the jazz men and their significant others attended. So it was cool to see all the jazz men hanging out together off the away from the court, and that was kind of fun to watch. Eclectic dude, Malik Beasley, and I like that he's a jazz man. Guy who didn't play is a guy that I'm really upset about is Simone Fontecchio. Also didn't play. I mentioned the rebounding woes. I think he can help there. He was a solid rebounder overseas, and he's definitely would be the biggest guy on the court if he was to play the small forward, power forward position alongside. If you have Markkanen or Olynyk at the 4 and the 5, like he's a big guy for like as far as like if he's going to play the small forward position, right, in that sort of Malik Beasley role or something like that for a few minutes, he would be the biggest guy out there, who could really compete with, the Carusos and the Dosunmus for rebounds, and he just didn't get any minutes today. It's just an end of the rotation thing, guys. I'm upset about it because I love watching him play. I think he has a real future in the NBA for at least a few years, and I just didn't like that he didn't get minutes. But it's just an end of the rotation thing. I'm not really going to be that upset about it, although I do hope to see him next game. That kind of rounds up what we had from the team here today. Like I said, we're just getting back into the swing of things. And unfortunate that we had a loss. We got 5 more home games coming up. Still have a winning record, 12-11. And we're pretty good at home still. I think we only have 3 losses at home. The dastardly Clippers will be here on Wednesday, 7 o'clock. And I'll be doing a postcast then, too. Sorry I was out for last week. I was really sick last week, but I'm happy to be here, cracking open a beer, talking jazz with you for a minute. I'll stick around for a couple minutes in case anyone on YouTube or in the Spaces has a question. I'll take a break here. give my mouth a break. And if anyone has a question or has a comment, I'm happy to field it. Otherwise, we can sign off for the night and see what else is going on. Catch the end of this Pacers-Lakers game. Finally feeling good enough to have a beer, so I think I'm going to crack open one and check out. Hope we get the Lakers back in the loss column against the Pacers, who are also a fellow very surprising team. If you haven't watched the Pacers yet this year, you will have a lot of fun watching the Indiana Pacers. They play a very similar style to Utah, and also they're very surprising as an 11-8 team that everyone thought was going to tank. And they've had some great surprises with their rookie Benedict Mathurin. Tyrese Halliburton looks like an all-star already. And Miles Turner's having the best season of his career, finally playing a full season without Domantas Sabonis. So we'll get to that. And until Wednesday night, I'm Mark Pereira, finally back doing Salt City Hoops, live postcast. And I'll catch you all on Wednesday. Have a good night.